Night is falling, or has fallen, on Spa-Francorchamps. It's been a stunning day, and now a nice warm evening for competitors to get through night practice. It is obligatory for all of our teams and drivers to complete night practice at least 3 laps around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Their first opportunity to see how this place is in the dark. And as you can see from our camera position, if you are watching us in sound, watching us in vision, you can see it is pretty dark already. There is no floodlights. This is all about knowing the track, knowing where your apexes are, and hopefully believing in yourself.
It's a pretty daunting place. A pretty daunting place in the daylight, let alone the dark. This, the final round of the European Championship of the 24H Series. The European Championship finishes here, but the 24H Series continues into November. Towards quarter after we've been here, but it's all to play for. We've got a championship to play for and race for over the course of 12 hours. But first, we've got a bit of night practice. It's a mandatory session for drivers to acclimatise to the dark conditions. What we have now, this will be the conditions that we will end the 12 hours of Spa tomorrow evening.
Well, let's head down then to Bruce Jones, who is down in the pit lane for us. And it is certainly now dark, isn't it, Bruce?
It's unbelievable how fast it came. And in fact, we just stepped in, looking across the track, above the grandstand, there's a little bit of blue sky. That will go in the next 5 minutes. And when you stand high in the pit lane here, and you look out towards the far end of the circuit, towards Bruxelles, I used to call it Rivage, it's completely dark now. I know I'm standing in a bright light garage in front of 2 championship challenging cars here, the Lorient Porsches. But the drivers, one of them, in fact, I just spoke to Adam Christodoulou, who just came up and said, "What do I have to do to take pole?" Sort of whimpered and walked off. You were talking about his deficit in Barcelona at the last second was 0.015 of a second. Today, it was 0.013. Anyhow, very competitive, the Mercedes. But he said to me, 2 laps for each of the drivers in the night time, not 3. We can check on that. There are 3 teams that have 5 drivers in their lineup. So if they had to do 15 laps in an hour and a half, that means they're going to be very, very quick in and out of the pits. We'll get on top of that, whether it's 2 laps or 3 laps. Basically, every driver has to get back out there. And a few garages away from us, sort of over the fence in the background, is a team that's still working really hard. It was the slowest of the A6 runners. It was the Preckert Herbert car, the Porsche that was crashed this morning by Daniel Alleman, still playing catch-up. So they're going to be out as much as they possibly can in this session. A lot of the other teams will do the minimum they have to do with their drivers, park their cars. But instead of having 26 cars as we had for that last qualifying, we've got everybody together. So a whisker under 60 cars coming out to play. And for quite a few of these drivers, it's their first time on this circuit and on this circuit in the dark. So they're going to have to hope the setup of the lights has been done very well indeed. So any moment now will be green light at the end of the pit lane, and the drivers will go out. 90 minutes in which not to make a mistake. Cars starting to leave the garages. So up to you guys, and let's hope it's a real cracker. It's not qualifying, it's night practice, but they've got to learn a lot.
Yeah, you're totally right about the 2 laps, 3 laps. 3 laps, I think, in other categories, but 2 laps here.
Yeah, I think this is a long lap as well, isn't it? And like Bruce said there, we'll be struggling to fit everyone in just the 90-minute session that we have. We're waiting for the green light at the end of the pit lane, and already a couple of cars waiting there patiently to start this session. Full dark now here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and this is exactly the conditions we're going to go towards the end in the checkered flag in tomorrow's 12-hour race. And as I say that, we've got a green flag.
Bruce and I were having this discussion at lunchtime about how dark it might be. And this time yesterday, I was driving to Malmedy, and it was no way near as... I didn't think it was as dark as this, but clearly it was. I wasn't paying attention. We are still an hour and a half away from, or an hour and 20 minutes away from the end of the race tomorrow evening. So we're going to have at least the last 2 hours are going to be in full dark mode.
Yeah, and Bruce said, try not to make any mistakes. That's a big ask around Spa. In the best of conditions, it's even more of a big ask, and a completely new environment. You recently had your first experience of racing a car in the dark. It wasn't exactly a GT3 Ferrari or Porsche, but it was still the same environment, Ben. And what was starkly apparent initially to you was how it's a complete change.
Yeah.
Complete change of environment.
Complete change of environment, a claustrophobic environment because the lights don't illuminate far enough. You don't get the ability to look far enough ahead of you, and therefore you're concentrating a lot more. Not physically tense, although some people probably would be, but it's the concentration, the mental fatigue that you find just constantly trying to spot where you need to place the car, and almost sometimes feeling your way around, feeling that the car has touched that curb so you know kind of where you are on the circuit. Have you touched it at the right moment? Oh, that's an odd feeling. I've hit a bit of track that I wasn't supposed to hit. But as we see these pictures of the circuit, there are no lights around the track. There's hardly any light coming from the moon, which is a very slither of a nail-like moon today and over the course of the weekend. So we do have floodlights at the end of pit lane, and pit lane, of course, is illuminated by the different garages. But out the back of the circuit, if I look now out of the window, I can just see a couple of dots, and that is it in the forests around this circuit. It's incredibly dark. And, you know, when you go to Le Mans, for instance, Le Mans is illuminated. Most of the track is illuminated. Porsche curves have got illumination. Obviously, the main pit area has got illumination. The Mulsanne Straight is not illuminated, but the chicanes are. This is a different ballgame. This is dark, dark, dark.
And I think I know the reason why. You go to a circuit like Spa, like Brno, for instance, which is through a forest. And I think the reason why a forest feels darker is because what little ambient light you have from the night sky, whether it's moonlit or not, you still got a little bit of ambient light from the stars, etc. You're in the shade of the tree still. And that creates, you're in the shade of the trees from the night sky. So it's even darker than night. It really is. And you're relying completely on the headlights. You'll see teams when we get down in the pits with Bruce, Di, and myself. I'm even going to go down to the pits later on in this session. We'll see teams tweaking the headlights and the side lights, and you'll also see lights on the cars that are not pointing forward at all, but pointing out to the sides at steeper than 45 degrees, and that's to light up the apex of the corners out there on the track.
Yeah, there's only one place here where, or maybe two places here, where you'd kind of look out the side window to spot your apex through the Bristle hairpin and at La Source. And La Source is a big, wide, open part of the circuit. You go in there and you are looking out the side door to spot your apex, to then turn in late and then get the power on out of that corner as early as possible. Now, that's easy in the light because you can see it, but you're driving past the apex and nothing is illuminating that apex at all, apart from a little bit of garage light. But down at Brussels, you're driving past the apex to turn in. You can't see it whatsoever, and you just got to hope you're in the right place.
The Source is quite unique because of the white concrete of the pit wall that forms the inside of the La Source hairpin. All that is white light, and it's hard to judge whether it's white light from a car or whether it's, and where is the wall and where does that stop and how far can I get to the wall, because you need to skim the wall to get as close as you can to make that corner as little as possible, reduce the radius of that corner as little as possible, and get back on the power as quickly as possible.
This is not an easy task at all, and I think I've been criminal in my assumption of racing drivers at night. At Le Mans, and we've done 24-hour races at the Nürburgring. Nürburgring's got a lot of light from the people and the fans around and the amount of cars you've got on track. But when you're on your own, like this Seat is, the only thing that's illuminated the track is his lights, and that's it. You can't even follow any brake lights.
Down to the pits for Bruce, who's got a little bit of info on lighting. Bruce?
One of the quickest cars, the number 11 Ferrari. Observe here, we have headlights, we have other lights. Behind this little grille down here are more lights, and they're doing exactly what Ben was talking about. Those are the ones that will go out and hit the apex of the corner to just really assist you at those 2 points you were talking about. And the team were working on those furiously before the start of their qualifying session. Didn't want to wait for this time in between, so every possible place you could put lights, you put them for here at Spa, which is very, very dark indeed.
That's better. Has Seb got a light on his camera now?
I'm holding a match. No, I tell you, it's so dark. Seb said, thanks, Bruce. It's so dark at the front of the car. It just happens to be there's a pillar between two garages taking all the light off. But
right.
yeah, it's bizarre. We were here wandering around on our shirt sleeves in a lovely sunset 25 minutes ago.
Yeah, and how is the temperature? Is it really dropped?
No, it's not. It has dropped, but it was a wonderful 24-degree day. No, it's a lovely temperate evening.
Oh, I look forward to sitting out in the garden having a quick beer later then.
Yeah, we've got a night practice session to get through, Ben. Don't get too excited.
I know, an hour and a half night practice session.
We're not going to see Binksy's bobble hat out for the nighttime sessions if it's a nice balmy night, as we call it.
Of course, here's another thing that you've got to consider when you're driving one of these GT3 cars, unlike my C1 that I was driving at Rockingham a few weeks ago. There's a lot of electronics and dashboards in these cars, and there's also a rear-facing camera. You see a Porsche that's stopped.
It's 56.
Quickly scan the entry list. 56 is the Van Berlo. So that's the pole-sitting 991 Cup car that stopped out on circuit, but I think that stopped going up. It's still in the pit lane, is it not? But it's at the top of Eau Rouge.
I really can't tell. And you know why, Ben? It's so dark.
Yes, exactly.
It's so dark. I can't see where exactly that car is.
So he's in the pit lane.
Ah, right. I'm going to look at the tracker and see.
I think he's on the pit exit at the top of the hill.
Right. So he's on the pit road, but he's left the pit lane.
Yeah. And there is a gap in the fence there. Yeah,
turn 4 at the top of Radiant is where that car is being pushed out of harm's way. That's not going to cause any problem. We've got a yellow flag from the bottom of Eau Rouge all the way up the hill to Radiant, and that car already being recovered behind the barrier. Well done to those marshals out there on the track there at the top of Radiant.
You cannot
Great
see
job.
them. You can't see them at all.
No, very, very dangerous. We've managed to get that car recovered and out of harm's way without the need of neutralising the track and neutralising the field on there. And that's been dealt with by way of local yellows at that section of track. Elsewhere on the track, though, we are green and ready to go. This is not a competitive session insofar as none of these lap times will be significant in forming the grid. That has already been formed by way of our 2 qualifying sessions for both our TCE categories and GT categories. Right now, this is an acclimatation session for all of our competitors, and mandatory laps, 2 laps by all of our drivers here, and mandatory even if you have been in a million 24-hour races. We still need you to be acclimatized to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which is unique, some of it I would think completely blind.
Yeah, absolutely. With we've got a code 60 as well now out on track. I thought we'd managed to clear the Porsche, but no, they're going to recover it back to the pits. So there must be an access road that can drag the car back down Eau Rouge effectively. Yellow flag at turn 3, so still issues up there. We saw the car had been pulled off to one side, but yes. Going back to my point about the cockpit, a lot of these cars have got rear-facing cameras. And let's go down to Bruce, sorry.
Bit of confusion here. We thought
that was definitely car 56.
That certainly had a number, but Bruce, you're with car 56.
Being the sort of guy I am, I ran up the pit lane. I was going to speak to Kay Van Berlo early because he took pole in the 991 Cup class, and I said, what's wrong with your car? You gave me that strange look going, nothing. You've checked with the crew. Your car hasn't stopped on the circuit.
No, nothing happened. Seems to be everything is all right. So yeah, let's start the night session.
Okay, you need nighttime laps. Everyone needs their nighttime laps. But have you ever raced in the dark?
I've never raced in the dark before. For me, it's going to be my first time out on track without any lights. So yeah, it's going to be mega exciting.
Now, one of the features of Creventic races, we have quite a lot of families racing together. And your father, Marcel, you and your brother, Glenn, all racing together. It's a great thing.
Yeah, it's really special for me. It's the first time we race together. It's Glenn's first big race in race cars, so that makes it even more special. And driving together with your brother and your dad is a great opportunity, which I will never forget.
You'll never forget. But obviously, you've raced here once before in the European Le Mans Series. Totally different sort of car, so you're gaining experience all the time.
Yeah, I'm gaining experience all the time. It's a different car, but still the lines and the circuit is the same. So it's a good opportunity to get even more experience now. Yeah.
But having tried a P3 class prototype in the European Le Mans Series, is that where you're looking for next year, or do you think you'll be racing a different sort of car?
Hopefully we will stay in the prototypes for me, but yeah, GTs is also a possibility for us. So for me, I don't care. We just need a winning team, a good car, and then I need to do my job. That's it.
And what you don't need is me coming and telling you your car's stopped at the side of the circuit just to give you a heart attack.
Yes, give me the heart attack. No problem. Everything is okay. So yeah, that's what counts.
Thank you very much, Kay Van Berlo. I think we'll see a lot more of him in the years to come.
Yeah, we said that a while. I think he's going to be very disappointed, though. Being a racing driver, he'll not be aware of what's happening to his car. And another car that's come to a halt is the number 33 at the same place. I wonder what's going on there. Some kind of magnetic field or something. That was definitely the 56 Porsche. Marcel Van Berlo at the wheel. So Kay Van Berlo. Did I get that right there, Ben? He's unaware that his car has stopped on the circuit.
Looking at the timing screens right now, Marcel Van Berlo was in the car and has not completed the first sector of the lap.
And he's not showing on our tracker.
So, and I'm pretty sure we saw him being pushed behind the barrier at the top of Eau Rouge, which is where the 33 car, which is the car collection Audi, has also stopped. And so they're trying to get him moved and out the way. So, interesting. Strange place to stop, especially as if they were just coming out of pit lane. Perhaps a drive shaft issue when you suddenly nail the accelerator or something like that.
You've done that before.
Not a drive shaft. I've nailed the accelerator. Doesn't do much when you're in a C1, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can't really tell whether you've nailed it or not.
Exactly. But you can see the screen there on the in-car. It's a very, very glary screen. And that glares into your eyes. You can turn it down as much as possible, but you have that, and you also have the rear-facing camera that's looking back at the cars behind rather than having a mirror, and that's very bright too, so that's reflecting into your eyes. Well, car 56 has got going again.
Sorry, Ben. Car 56 is going again. So while we go code 60 out on the circuit, I'd like to welcome to the booth Ola Dorleman from Creventic, who's got some very exciting news for us. And as Ola just takes his place and is made comfortable in his seat, he's I think you are on air, Ola.
Okay,
welcome.
Thank you.
Great to see you again.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah. Now then, Ola, we've recently had a press release about the 24 Series calendar for next season. We're creating a tradition here that we're going to break next year because we're not going to be at Spa in October. But for the last couple of years, we've had the exclusive on the announcement of the following season's calendar at Spa, and here we are again at Spa about to do the same thing. Now, I've seen it, and I'm going to go through it with you. And as ever, Championship of the Continents kicking off with the Dubai 24 Hours, which is the embryo of the 24H series. That's where it all started. And tell me, everyone happy in Dubai to have us back, I take it?
Well, we're happy to return to Dubai every year. I'd like to point out it's our 14th running of the event already. And we're happy to once more start the endurance season in Dubai. And to return, of course.
That's because we're from Europe.
Yeah,
exactly. January in Europe, Dubai's a much better place, a much nicer place.
Yeah,
it's great, and it's a great place. to compete at. It's the Dubai Autodrome is a fantastic, one of the best kept secrets in motorsport, in my view. It's a fantastic circuit, and everybody there so welcoming to have such a big race to kick the year off.
Yeah, exactly. We're very happy to return, and there couldn't be any better place to start the season than Dubai.
Right.
In fact,
I agree. Now then, I'm excited to see that we kick off the European Championship after Dubai. Towards the end of March, we are going back to Mugello for a 12-hour race. One of my favourite parts of the world, and we didn't go to Mugello this year, and I think that was down to some kind of resurfacing going on at the track or whatever that was. But I'm ecstatic to be going to Tuscany in March to kick off the spring season in Europe.
We are very excited about our return to Mugello. I'm very certain so are our teams. And it is great to be back. It's also going to be our 5th anniversary edition already of the 12 Hours Mugello. And it sort of became a traditional season opener in the past. Unfortunately, one year it wasn't. But now it's back, and we couldn't be happier about the choice for our start of the European Championship next season.
Yeah, and then we come here to Spa for a 12-hour race in April. I mean, the weather in the height of summer at Spa-Francorchamps is a little bit changeable. It was raining and cold last year. Here it is, beautiful 25-degree temperatures, sunshine forecast for tomorrow. So April could be the same. It could be 25 degrees, or it could be 5 degrees.
You never know what's going to happen here weather-wise. We're happy to come here also for the 3rd time, now earlier during the year. But we're certain it's going to be a good race for GT and touring cars together once more, and it's going to be great. No matter what's the weather, you can't
absolutely
tell anyways how it's going to be.
We've already spoken to drivers all of that have said that they're here this weekend for the first time, but they are going to have to come back and try this place in the wet, because that's the true Spa bucket list, Spa in the wet. So yeah, we could be delivering that for them in April. Another reason for me to be happy with next year's calendar is a return to the Czech Republic and Brno. Fabulous circuit, probably the darkest place I've ever been to when we did the 24 hours there. But next season we're going to have a 12-hour race.
Yes, we're going back to the 12-hour format, which we were having in the first year in Brno in 2015.
Yeah.
Back then we were there in October. Now it's in May. So the weather is going to be fine. The temperature's nice. It's a circuit we heard many times coming back from teams. Why are you guys not in Brno anymore? And we're very glad it worked out for 2019 again.
Yep, so am I. Portimao in July, that's become a bit of a tradition. We kind of all get our shorts and flip-flops on and go to the Algarve. It's certainly one of my favourite circuits in the whole world. I love that Portimao track, and the fact that it's in the Algarve, well, again, what a great continuing addition to the series.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it doesn't rain in the Algarve.
It doesn't, does it? No.
It doesn't.
No. And if it does, only very slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're very happy to return for the 3rd time in a row in summer.
Yeah.
The temperatures are usually good. It's not too hot, not cold in any case.
Yeah,
but
and that's a challenge in itself. And I find with this series, we go to Dubai, we go to Mugello, we go to Spa, we go to varying. In Europe we have different degrees of track temperatures. And the fact that we're going to go to Portimao in July, where the it could be 32 to 36 degrees. That's a challenge in itself, and that's what we want. We want a mix of challenges, don't we, for this?
Exactly. And Portimao circuit itself, it's a great track to race on. It has some blind corners that you just don't see coming.
Yeah.
And all the feedback we received from teams and drivers was very positive. So it is a great addition to our calendar. In any case.
It is. Long may it remain. We're going to round off the European Championship season at the Barcelona 24 Hours. Now, that's a race that already had quite a long history, and its history was embedded in touring cars. We tried that last year. I think this year worked better. the fans that I saw come out to that race, I know there's no ticket price on the gate, so it's the same as here at Spa, no ticket price here at Spa. But did you notice, Ola, that the mix of families, the crowd that were coming out and still there at 2 a.m.? I know the Spanish like to do things late in the evening, don't they? But you've got to love them for it because they came out in their droves.
Yeah, it's incredible how big the passion for endurance races is in the whole Catalonian region. And after all, it's also already the 21st running of the 24 Hours Barcelona next year. It's an event with great tradition. We are very happy to be organizing it once more in cooperation with the circuit.
I was going to say, I'm sure the Creventic organisation feels privileged to be able to be involved in the continuation of that history.
Exactly. It is, after all, one of the largest endurance races in Europe throughout the year.
Yeah.
And we are very happy to have the privilege, as you say, to organize, to co-host this race as part of our calendar. Next year with the special edition, it's going to be the closer of our European season. Yeah,
we're going to finish off a championship there, aren't we? The season, though, doesn't end. We go on until November, pretty much like we're doing this year, and we're going back to the Circuit of the Americas. Once again, back to North America, Austin in Texas, great party town, fabulous for food and music, and the circuit itself, fantastic. Once again, another Formula One facility. We certainly choose the classics here for the 24H series.
We do. After all, if you have a look at both championships together, we have 7 races in 7 different countries on 3 continents.
Yeah, fabulous.
And it's all great circuits, and there couldn't be any more special finishing touch to it than our third running of the 24 Hours Kota USA in Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, the interest of American teams in the event is growing. We will be hosting more American teams this year than we had last year, and we see that there is a continuous growth for this event itself, and it's a great season finish.
Yeah, I've noticed the provisional entries for this year's quarter race is 2/3 up or something. Did I see a statistic? 2/3 up on last year's figure?
Something like that. Yes.
So we're going to have a grid similar to in size, if not bigger, than what we see here at Spa.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Fantastic. Now, Dubai kicking off the season and Kota ending the season, that bookends our Championship of the Continents. In the middle bit of that, we've got a little bit of a difference there for next year insofar as you can pick the best of your Portimao or Barcelona results to form your Championship of the Continents. Have I got that right?
Exactly. The best 24-hour race in Europe will count towards the championship.
Right, and that's Portimao and Barcelona.
Yes, exactly.
So you choose, the best of the results from that, and that will give you your where you are results-wise.
Exactly.
I mean, fantastic. We really, the fans, I speak for the fans here when I say this, Ola, we love the 24H series. We've got people who religiously tune in and listen and watch, and have become, we've brought endurance racing to a different fan base altogether, I think, when we've taken the club racers sometimes out of club racing and lifted their vision and showed them what endurance racing's about. And I think that comes from the diversity of field that we have. And I know that we've been lacking in the A2 and the A3 classes in the past couple of years, but already measures have been put in place to encourage that kind of competitor with those cars. And when I say A2 and A3, what I mean is Clio Cup comes to mind, the single make hatchback formula, spec formulas, the Seat Cupra Cup cars that are sitting in garages at home and in Europe that are gathering dust. We want to encourage those cars to come out and teams to be able to put 3, 2, 3, 4 drivers in those cars and take part. Now, I've heard from teams that changes in things like entry fees, the series are aware of the need to bring back that diversity of field and encourage the A2 and A3 competitors back, I think.
Yes, but for us, the entry level of endurance races is very important. we come from amateur racing. We're here for the gentlemen. So what is important to us that we do not lose this focus. And the entry-level classes, the smaller touring cars, they're a very important core part of this. So by making it even more attractive than it was before,
Right.
to race with us next year,
Yeah.
we hope to generate a growth in these classes, and I'm very sure if you want to race international with an entry-level touring car, there's almost no better place to be than the 24-hour series powered by.
With that type of car, I've been promoting this series. You know, let's take, you know, if you want to go endurance racing, get your together, get them in the car, you know, share the cost. That's the main thing at that kind of entry level. It's the sharing of the cost. And here you are racing in an international series with full live TV coverage, with our stream, and you know, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Other exciting news that we've been aware of for a little bit of time is what's happening in the Middle East. We've before we talk about the Middle East Championships that we are creating, the prototype championship that we've been trying to get off the ground now for a couple of years, we've kind of we're taking a different view on that, aren't we, going into 2019? Tell me, what are the changes and what we've got planned for our prototype series?
Well, for a lot of 2018, we've been listening, and
Right.
we've been in talks with teams, with manufacturers, and basically evaluating the format of our races. For example, take the race in Dubai, which actually is the real start of the endurance racing season.
That's right, because it's the weekend. It's
1 week before
it's
the
the weekend
24
before,
hours.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So being on 5 to 6 of January 2019, it will actually be the start of the racing season.
Of the racing season, yeah.
It's the first weekend in January. But looking at it, the format of three-hour races, it worked out quite well. It worked out fine, but still we had comments. It's difficult to promise two drivers you are able to run all 3 races.
Right.
So we decided what is the perfect format for these cars, for P3 cars, for P2 cars, and also with a focus on the CN group, of course. Yes,
Sports cars, aren't
it's
they? Yeah.
Open sports cars with a 2-liter engine,
Yeah.
1.6-liter turbo.
Yeah.
They a longer race is sometimes hard to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So we said 6 hours. That's a perfect format. A single 6-hour race, and we're very confident that this new format can attract new teams, can make the teams that participated in the last 2 years come back to Dubai and join us for the remainder of the season. We will also have a 6-hour race in Kota, in Austin, at the end of the year.
Right.
Already.
That's at the same
fixed.
weekend as the 24-hour race.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that'll be fitted into. I mean, what a race program that is! A 6-hour race, as well as all the practice and qualifying. Now, I noticed that the prototype championship is open to GTs.
Yes.
And I kind of foresee the 6 hours of Dubai, the weekend before the 24 hours. That's going to be, if you're a GT team, you could be doing both. You could be shaking down the car with a 6-hour race. And with, you know, limited servicing and the odd repair, you could be then wheeling the car out the following weekend or the middle of the week for the 24 hours. Is that kind of what the thinking was, to generate some interest with competitors to do both of those events back to back?
Yes, exactly. But not only that, but also attracting new teams as well, because different to this year, the GT classes within the Proto Championship, they will also have a championship standing.
Right.
So actually, it is an interesting opportunity for someone who has a GT car but wants to race with 2 drivers, let's say.
Right.
Let's do a 6-hour race in Dubai.
Yeah.
Also, if you have an old spec GT3 car, and there are many of these, it is an interesting opportunity to get it back out of the garage and say, oh, let's race 6 hours. So we think it is a great addition to the prototype format. Of course, the main focus will still lie on the prototype within this championship. But the GT cars, they perfectly fit into this image of 6 hours racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as part of the 2019 Prototype Championship, in the middle bit between Dubai and Qatar, how are we dealing with the championship? It says TBA to be announced. 6 hours at Spa, 6 hour at Brno, Portugal, or Barcelona. Are you talking to those circuits to create another, like what we're going to do at Qatar? We're going to run a 6 hour prototype race on the same weekends as our races are already scheduled at Spa, Brno, Portimao, or Barcelona. Prototype races at Portimao. Oh, please make that happen. Please make that happen.
It's going to be either one or two more 6 hour races, and
right. One or two?
One or two.
All right, really cool.
That depends. It's going to be announced in due course, of course. But what we want to create is a discussion with the teams who want to commit to the series.
Right.
To see which of the weekends we're having for the GT and TCE cars on the European circuits fits good, and which track do you want to race on?
Right.
So the teams will have an active involvement in where and when 6 hour races take part.
And I think I understand the need to talk to the teams, the car owners, because the LMP3, the P2, they have a very busy European calendar, don't they? And it's it's quite an ask, actually. It's quite a task for you to fit in around the already established European Le Mans Series, the national LMP3 Cup, the Cup series that I'm aware of in the UK and certainly in other parts of Europe. So that's very much a TBA, and that's very much something that you guys are working on.
Yes, that plus we're also in talk with manufacturers, of course, next to the teams. So we made a special arrangement with Ligier. They're gonna release now the first cars of the new JS P4.
Right.
Which performance-wise fits
That's
in
quite
between
an exclusive, my friend.
LMP3
Wow.
and JS P4.
Right.
Which performance-wise fits
That's
in
quite
between
an exclusive, my friend.
LMP3
Wow.
and GT3 cars. So we created a special class for these cars, a P4 class, within the Prototype Championship. And as I can tell you, the first customers of Ligier, they will be able to buy the car together with a participation in our championship.
Right. Really, as an incentive.
Exactly.
Right, that's fantastic. I know. So, at the moment, we're in the area of raising awareness that this actually exists. How can we help? By, I suppose, the way that we can help are all of our fans listening to spread the word. And if you're connected to or aware of anyone that is involved in this kind of prototype racing, then we need, to promote the idea of this prototype championship on an international level. That's what we need to do. We need to spread the word, don't we?
Yes, exactly. Don't be shy.
Absolutely.
Anyone, even driving a small sports car, a small 2-liter engine CN car.
And we're talking about radicals and the like there, aren't we?
Exactly, radicals. If you know someone who would be interested, just spread the word. Because after all, we are endurance. This is endurance, and it isn't that expensive after all to race 6 hours in Dubai even. Yeah,
that's right. And why wouldn't you in January?
Exactly.
Around the Dubai Autodrome as well. What else is happening in the Middle East? We've announced the 24H Series Middle East Championship for Protos and GT, and also a TCR Middle East Championship. Now that's it's completely separate to what we've spoke about so far. This is a completely separate series of events. We're talking about 3 events starting off in Dubai, at the Dubai Autodrome on the 25th, 26th of January. The following weekend at the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi, and then back to finish off the series at the Dubai Autodrome the 7th and 8th of February. This is a winter series. Tell us more, Ola. Where are we? Is the principle behind this series to generate competitors and business from the Middle East, or are you trying to sell this to European teams as well to bring their TCR cars to the Middle East and race in the off season? Or a bit of both, actually.
It's a combination, actually, because there are some local teams present, of course, racing in mainly national championships at the moment. So for these, it's interesting, but also for European customers. If you have a look, there are two options. Either you go testing in Europe, or you go racing in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So this is the platform we are creating with the combination of these endurance races. It is a lot of track time. It is a very attractive all-inclusive entry fee, and by all-inclusive I mean basically all-inclusive for 12,500 euros.
For the 3 events?
For the 3 events,
right.
That already includes the fuel and the sea transport from Europe to Dubai and back.
Wow.
And working space at Dubai Autodrome. We're going to have some coverage of the event as well, of course, live timing. And
so you're talking about people being able to go out there and base themselves at the Dubai Autodrome for the 3-week period, with almost a month, let's say. Which is going to be vitally important, of course, because on the 27th of January we're not going to kick those teams out of the Dubai Autodrome for 2 weeks, are we? We need to house them, and that's all part of the deal, what you guys have done out in Dubai.
Exactly. Dubai Autodrome, they've created a new workspace area in their facility,
right?
And these workspaces will be available to the teams to work on their cars in between the races, plus every day is a track day there, so if you want to go testing,
right,
you still can do so in between the races.
Wow, right, really? So you can drive round and round for 3 weeks if you want to do, yeah.
If you like so, yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. From our fans in Europe who watch and listen, have we worked on are we going to be able to see these races in this series live television, or are we going to be able to, what's the plan? I would imagine that's still in its formative stage and everything working towards what best you can.
There will be coverage, that is certain. I cannot guarantee it's going to be live.
Yeah.
But we're still working on it. We look for how we can achieve it.
Right.
But there will, of course, be a way to follow these races from Europe as well.
Right, yes, yeah. Of course, I'm looking at self-interest here, Ola. I'm wanting live television would be nice, wouldn't it? Yes, because that would involve us at RSL. Hopefully. It's very exciting. I know there's a lot of hard work goes into this, and you've got some really strong relationships that have been developed over the course of the last few years. I don't want to sound negative here, and please forgive me if it does come across as negative. And I suppose what I'm going to say is I was disappointed not to see Imola on there. And I was disappointed not to see Silverstone on there, because I'm from England, and Silverstone is at the heart of British motorsport, arguably. However, if we were to put in the series everywhere we wanted to go to, we'd end up with 25. We'd end up with a 25 race series, wouldn't we? I'm excited. I'm sure everyone's going to be excited. You've picked some fantastic venues, Ola. Big congratulations to everybody on your team at Creventic, and long may it continue. Thanks for coming in to talk to us. I think we'll do exactly the same sometime during the race, because we'll have a different audience are going to hear it again, and it's nice to be able to go into detail about how you guys put together and what your intentions are and what your vision is for taking this series forward. Brilliant stuff.
Sure. Thank you very much, Joel.
Thanks, Ola.
I'm
Great to see you again. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you have any queries about the 2019 24H series, please tweet us in your queries or your questions and where you'd like the series to maybe go. you can't have it all your own way. We're going to some fantastic places next year, and I'm really excited to see Bruno back. Mugello certainly back on the calendar is a big positive. But please tweet us in your queries on either the 12 Hours of Spa or indeed the 2019 announcement for the 24 Series calendar for next year. At Bradders 3078, at Binksy DB, at I forgot Ben's, at Consty Ben, at Ben Consty, and Bruce Jones is at Bruce Geo. I forgot the rest. Anyway, it'll get to us with those 3 handles and we'll fill in Bruce's later. Ben, you were listening to us chat about next season, and I would imagine looking at that calendar, they've hit the classics again, haven't they? We're going back to Barcelona, we're coming back to Spa, we're going to Mugello. What's not to like about Mugello in the spring? And Brno, have you been to Brno?
Yeah, what a track.
What a track.
What a track.
What an absolute track. And of course, let's not forget the Dubai Autodrome. Have you driven the Dubai Autodrome?
No, I've never driven around it, no, but I mean, it's obviously the whole point of the whole championship really is that core Dubai 24 Hours that has so many cars.
It's where it started.
Exactly.
This series grew from that one-off event every year.
Yeah, and to continue with COTA, obviously showing that it was a success last year, it's growing this year. We're seeing a lot more Americans even here this weekend in warm-up to COTA. So it does look like a healthy calendar. And hopefully it's nicely spread out as well, so we don't lose too many competitors saving their cars, which we saw a couple of years ago with Portimao and Barcelona. There's good gaps to make sure you can be at every event. There are less events, which keeps it cheaper. There's also been a slight tweak in the payment structure as well for certain classes. So I think in total it's good news for Creventic, and as I say, great circuits to visit and be part of. And I think proof that there's a real need for this kind of series is 59 cars here at Spa.
Yeah.
Although at the moment 55 are running. We still have 4 non-shows. Ebby Motors, we know, doesn't have an engine. We know that there's gasket blown on WEC Motorsports BMW E46. Question mark over the Mark M2 V8, Quick VR Racing. They are missing so far from this session. They did qualify, but that was the one that we saw smoking going into Les Combes. So I wonder if there's an issue with that car. Haven't seen them out on circuit. We've had 40 minutes of this session. I also just popped down to GDL Racing just to see what was going on with them. I think they've packed their Audi RS3 into the back of their truck and they're going home.
Oh, really?
Looked like damage to the rear end of the car. Front was absolutely fine, but rear end damage, and also those cars are inherently weak at the rear end. If touring cars, if you bang a rear quarter, they tend to bend pretty easily in comparison to the front.
You completely destroy the handling because the rear wheels start to toe in or toe out, or depending on how they get it, they're a little bit femmer. Yeah,
so I think we're certainly not going to see GDL. EB Motors, we still wait to see. Well, there's no activity on in terms of fitting their engine. WEC Motorsport are going to struggle to get out this session if they've got a gasket. And just want to know what's going on with that Mark M2. That's the question mark for whoever goes down to pit lane. I think Dye is heading down there and relieving Bruce. 46 minutes remaining of the session, halfway through this session, and let's tell you the times. Who's fastest at the moment?
That does sound like we've got a pit mic open. Who is that? Is that Bruce or is that Diana?
All right.
Bruce?
Just checking out with the 209 BMW. Eric Quick just said, we think we've broken a piston. So concerned about that. And I'll tell you what, Gianluca Lorenzi talking about GDL Racing. Ben thinks the car's been packed away. One little look at the face of Gianluca as he stormed down the pit lane about an hour ago suggested that he wasn't going to be hanging around for tomorrow. It's a big shame. And obviously GDL Racing have raced around the world with Creventic, and I'm sure they'll be back, but I think we could be talking 2 cars out of it.
You know what? It always is sad to lose any of our competitors in the preliminary run up to any race, and they come here at least hoping, expecting to take the start, and it really is. It's bad enough. I suppose, Ben, it asks the question, when's the best time to go out of a long-distance race? Hugh Chamberlain always said before the pubs close, before the bars close. I suppose there's no real great time to finish an endurance race with a retirement, but
at least get into the race.
At least get into the race, absolutely. And it's very cruel when it comes in the final hour, most certainly. None more crueler than Toyota a couple of years ago. That was perhaps the cruelest. But it's as cruel. Everybody geared up. You've got drivers who, one driver starts the car and the car goes out in the first stint. You've got 2 or 3 disappointed drivers to console having not got in the car at all during the race. And it's very common. However, nobody comes into these races not knowing what they're getting into, and anything can happen in the next 12 hours, is the saying.
We're riding on board there with the 303 Rick Broiker's Seat Leon, I suppose it is. It's not a Cupra. And they sat most of the session in the pits whilst you were chatting away about the calendar. They were still not out on circuit, but of course they've only got 2 drivers to get through, to cycle through. Now, if it was me, I'd have got them out done early, and gone home.
Yeah,
not sat around and waited for 40 minutes, but perhaps they're having dinner.
It's not like they don't know the car.
Nope,
they know the car inside out. They know everything about that car, how to drive it. Rick Broikers is absolutely the expert in maximising the potential from that car. And all you're doing is wearing the car out. You're wearing the engine, the gearbox. You're throwing £20 notes away by way of Hankook tyres. I'm sure Manfred Sandbickler wouldn't mind you doing that, but it doesn't make any sense. You're right. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Question marks over their strategy calls, especially with sending the car out with a minute to go at the end of the qualifying session as well. But
their strategy calls are all sorted, mate. They've got the master strategist in there.
It's all going wrong at the moment.
In there for the team. In there for the team. So so what we're seeing here, the 303
is
out on the pits.
Yeah,
he's out of the pits. So he hasn't. They have not called it a day, and they're still trying to eke out some kind of performance, maybe trying to get the tyres to work a bit better. They're not happy with how it is performing, or maybe just getting used to what the dark conditions are going to be like.
The other thing that I noticed on the onboard of that camera, we're still watching the 303, the left-hand light. He's got an iPad. Look, there we go. That's an iPad sitting in the middle of the car. I don't know what it's showing.
I know what that is.
Go on.
It's the active ride system on that car. Tractive, it's called.
Wow. And
you can buy that system and put it onto your race car, onto your little C1.
Wow.
And it works. The best way I can describe it, it's like active ride. It's basically got dynamic dampers that are adjusting themselves dynamically as the car goes around the track. Wow. So, in fact, that's a mission for one of our pit callers. I've had it explained to me in detail by Rick Broikers and Ivo Broikers, and maybe it's an idea. If we get an idea and a little bit of explanation, we can certainly do that in the race. If you're watching on the stream, you can clearly see that from the in-car shots on the 303 Seat of Red Camels Jordan. Rick Broikers at the wheel of that car, and I'm not sure what those what the actual what it was showing on the screen, but I do know that is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All controlled by an iPad.
Yes, a computer. Let's head down to Diana Bings, who takes over from Bruce. Diana, you're down in the pits now.
Yes, Bruce has gone on a little break, so I've joined the pit lane to see what's happening during this night practice session. Chris Hoy is joining me now. Just jumped. Well, you've done your hour stint, haven't you? Your lap, sorry.
Yeah, it was over before I knew it begun. Basically, yeah, just two flying laps, and then we're qualified. So we're all ready to go, having a great time. I mean, everyone says it, but what an amazing circuit it is, and I think at night it brings it to life even more. It's just a fantastic place in the dark.
Now, you're in the 226 Aston Martin Racing Performance car for this race. How have you found the car, and how's the balance? I know you had a lot of track time earlier today.
Yeah, we did. I drove a GT4 Advantage at Le Mans at the Aston Martin Festival race earlier this year, so I've driven a similar car, but the GT8's got a bit more downforce, a bit more sort of high-speed grip. but in return you lose a little bit of straight line pace. So we changed a few settings today. It's been handling really well since then, and I think it just gives you the confidence to push. But it's great fun so far. Racing with Andy Palmer, the CEO of the company. You want to make sure you hand the car back in one piece. So
Yeah, you might get into trouble if you don't.
Exactly. If he does it, it's fine. If we do it, we're out.
Chris, as an athlete, we know you always push yourself to the limit. You've been at Le Mans, you do endurance racing. How are you finding the challenges so far of Spa?
Well, it's a hugely demanding circuit, but it's no surprise that it's no coincidence that it's, most drivers' favourite track, certainly the top 3 favourite tracks in the world. It has everything, and the history, the sense of, I don't know, just all this ghosts of the drivers, the years gone by that have raced here. All your heroes have been here. So many amazing battles. So it's a real privilege to be competing on this track. And as I said, at night, it makes it even more of a challenge and even more exciting. And I think that's what I love about endurance racing more than anything, is going out from all the lights into the dark, and you really have to focus. It's an amazing experience.
Anything taken you by surprise?
I raced here once before, 4 years ago, in British GT, and that was my first ever podium in any racing. So it was the place has got great sort of fond memories for me. But I think the biggest surprise in this car was just how much you had to lift for Blanchimont. So Blanchimont in the GT3 when I was here was flat, and here you've got to lift. The car's quite unsettled. And in the dark you've got to be so precise. You've got to make sure you get that apex, otherwise you drift wide on the exit. So the biggest surprise I think was just how much of a challenge Blanchimont is, and it's a fast corner, so pretty scary.
Everyone says they love this circuit, but obviously, you've been at Le Mans, so you have been used to driving at night, but this is a bit of a different beast here at Spa, isn't it?
Well, Le Mans is quite a bright circuit at night. There's loads of lights everywhere. There's lots of ambient light. When you go out of here and up past Eau Rouge, it's just pitch black, and it's fine when there's a few cars ahead of you. You can sort of see where it's going, but particularly down the back end of the circuit, when you come back down the hill, it's pitch black. So you really have to use all your senses, and you pick out different braking points, different visual sort of references. But that's all part of the challenge. That's why we do it. Because we love it. It's that unique experience of racing at night.
This series is really attracting more and more drivers. We're getting bigger and bigger grids. How are you enjoying it so far?
I'm having an absolute ball. It's so much fun. I think the endurance racing format really encourages the amateur drivers to come along, and then you benefit from the professional drivers. You learn from them. You develop your skills. But I think it's the amount of seat time you get. It's the camaraderie as well, and I think the organisers make everybody feel very welcome. So it's no coincidence that there's such a big grid here. The track is great, the organisers are great, and the weather's great as well, which is a
surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris, for the moment, thanks for chatting to us. A pleasure as ever. We'll catch up with you over the weekend.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.
Just a quick look at what looks to me like potentially a Seat with a damaged front left corner. It's not a Seat, it's more BMW-esque. 133 is an Audi, in fact. Audi TCR, Baporo running that car. Baporo, sorry, running that car.
Alberto Vescovi at the wheel.
And he smashed something on the left side, because the front wheel's definitely pointing the wrong direction.
I think that left-hand rear wheel is catching the bodywork, because we've got smoke billowing from the left-hand rear.
Yeah, but the front's
wheel
also
arch.
facing a wrong direction as well.
Right. So he's altered the alignment of both the front and rear of the car.
He's slapped something pretty hard.
I'm going to try and trace where he is on
that's easy.
the track. Well, where is he?
He's going into Blanchimont.
Ah, right.
Yeah, there's a big,
right.
big
so he's on his way
shot
back.
there. Yeah.
He's disappeared. Oh, it's on him. No, it's not. He's disappeared off the track. Well, he's not far from home then if he is heading towards Blanchimont. He's disappeared off the tracker for some reason. So,
it might be...
it's got, the tracker's got him in the pits.
Oh, well, that's because it's an estimation.
Ah,
so,
of course.
So it's well
yes,
ahead.
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not GPS.
It's not GPS.
It's not
right.
GPS.
It's an estimation. A quick look at this rather magnificent KTM crossbow with its GT4 bodywork. Very rare car. You don't see many of these about. Perhaps a little bit more on the continent than we do in the UK. But underneath all that,
I've ever seen one of those cars in the UK.
No, I don't think I have. No.
I don't think I have.
See the KTM. but this funny screen
with the clamshell front screen.
Yeah.
That acts as a door.
And a bit more of a roll hoop than you would normally have. But actually, if you strip all of that off, there is still the KTM Crossbow underneath. Exact same car that is potentially more familiar to all of us. But then it's just funny, that screen, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've always wondered how you get out of the car if it's on its roof.
Just smash the windscreen.
I don't know what the safety. I've never really wanted to ask that question.
No.
It's like a really negative question. You hit Spa. Here you are at Spa. What happens if you roll the car and you're on your roof? Nah, I don't want to ask that. I don't want to ask that question.
It is interesting one.
It is. It's it's off our first page of Code 60 has come out there, Ben, I notice.
I wonder whether that's because we've got bits of car lying around.
Maybe.
From that tyre.
Whether it's cause or effect, whether the issues to the 133 were caused by debris, or whether the 133 has caused the debris. We maybe never know, because we really can't see anything from our TV camera service out on the track, and even the circuit CCTV.
Not the fault of them at all.
No. It's just the fact that it's the sun's fault. It's gone down. This is going to be interesting.
I think he stopped, because we're seeing on the timing screens that the 133 car will be recovered, which means it stops somewhere on the track and needs to be recovered. That's why we've got this code 60. So he limped around enough to destroy the tyres on at least the front left and perhaps the rear left as well. Once they gave up the Ghost, it was time to get the recovery truck out. There it is, the recovery truck, or at least it's flashy lights, but that's about all you can see, isn't it?
Jimmy Peters Ennis tells me that there's a GT4 Expo racing in Britcar.
Is it right?
In the UK. Is that one with the thing is, Jamie, is that the open top one, or the one like we have here racing with us at Spa? Question for you there. Got a few, just waiting for it to open up. A few tweets have come in. Not sure what Right Turn Lover is asking there. No, go back from that one.
We've got about 30 minutes remaining left of this night session. It's really here just to qualify the drivers and teams into the race.
I've got a good one here. Ram Racing has tweeted us. Team boss at Dan Ram 1 and driver Tom Onslow watching together from Tom's house, potentially crying on each other that they are not there. We'll see you real soon. Well, I really hope you do see us real soon, because you are a big miss, Dan Shufflebottom and Tom Onslow Cole. I've now got a mental picture of them holding each other on the sofa there in Tom's house, and them holding each other and consoling each other. Maybe Bex is mopping their brows. I've tried to not mention you guys because you're not here, but I'm failing miserably. And we had a very similar qualifying here at Spa, that in exactly the same fashion as we did at Barcelona. This time it was Lance David Arnold who snatched the pole position right at the very end, right on the very last lap, in the same way Tom Onslow Cole did. So Ram Racing are a huge miss, and I have you basically have no reason not to be here. So I don't know what it is. What is the reason why you're not here? And it's a disgrace. So sort it out, Dan.
Frankly.
Quite frankly, it is. It's a disgrace.
Interesting, the times. Lance David Arnold's been out in the Mercedes GT3 car that's on the pole position. And his times, now they're not be pushing for qualifying, but they're about 4 or 5 seconds off what they were doing in the light in qualifying, which perhaps is a reflection of just how tricky it is to be driving at Spa at night. Wasn't articulated quite as much as I was expecting from Sir Chris Hoy in that interview. I was expecting him to be a bit more kind of Google-eyed about the whole trying to spot everything. Certainly that's how I felt, but he seemed pretty cool about it. He's obviously done a 24-hour race before. He'd raced at Le Mans 24 hours, raced here once before in British GT, as he said, mounted the podium. Now, I saw him last in Creventic in a dreadful Honda Civic in last year. It was a school car that they'd converted into a race car, and it was going very slowly at the back of the field that he was part of, and was in their own race, I think. I don't know if he's done anything since that point.
I'm not sure, Ben. I'm not sure.
But he did make that interesting point about this Aston Martin Vantage GT8, as it's called, that you were explaining sits between the GT4 and GT3 categories. Clearly, it doesn't have the downforce of a GT3 car.
Yeah, it's got more than the GT4,
but less than the GT3.
but less than GT3,
Yeah.
which explains why. Can you imagine going through Blanchimont and having to, the challenge obviously is the car floating around, sliding, making sure you get the apex right at pretty close to optimum top-end speed.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the 130R at Suzuka, isn't it, Blanchimont? It's very similar kind of high-speed entry to it, and then picking out where you need to turn the car.
God, there's no references around there with the trees so close to track.
Yeah.
No reference whatsoever.
That's right. And in the dark as well.
Oh, no, thank you.
It's great to see Chris Hoy out with us, though, and we hope to see him out more often. We don't see enough of him, actually. So
we saw the car being recovered. Presumably it's going to come down pit lane, so Diana's going to have a good look at the Audi RS3, the 133 cars. It's 33rd, there it is, on our screens, just about to arrive. It is in pit lane, so we can have a look to see what the problem is with that car. Left-hand side was certainly damaged, but was it rear and front, or was it just the rear?
Well, we have our very own Binksy down there, who will be, let's get down to Di, who's right on the scene.
As the truck arrives, just here at the garage, there's obviously several scuff marks I can see on the car so far. I can't see the far side, guys, because obviously the pit lane is still live, but Seb's round there as they're about to just drop the car down. But from where I'm standing, I can't see too much damage in the car. I'll just have a look round the front as Seb is filming the back, and that looks okay. I just can't see the other side, so I'll need to pick that up when Seb's running across to the pit wall now, and he's filming from the other side. What can you see?
Here we go, back on our RF camera. He's had contact with the barrier. Left front damage. What about rear damage?
It doesn't look as if there's anything at the rear, Ben, because I can see that from here. Or saying that, no, there is damage to the rear. No damage to the rear that I can see.
So he's definitely had
steering, I think.
No, there is something hanging down. It's not the exhaust or anything. I think it's a bit of the flooring bracket or something is hanging down from the bottom of the car. I can't quite see that yet either.
Yeah, so I think that car's gone off a right-hand corner and has made contact with a barrier on its left front. The ride across the gravel might have ripped some bits from the bottom, but certainly the main damage looks to be the front left corner.
It's definitely got broken suspension.
And broken suspension.
That wheel is not linked to the steering steering rack.
So that is one problem solved. Track is clear, 27 minutes remaining, and we are back to green flag around the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. And
we're going to have if you are watching on the screen, we're going to have a look at an incident involving the 303 Red Camels Jordan through and out of Eau Rouge, getting absolutely a beautiful four-wheel drift off the circuit at the top of the hill at Radillon. He's right across on the left-hand side on the runoff, well off the track, and he slides to a halt. He goes into black darkness. We can't really see. Has he avoided contact with the barrier? I think he did avoid contact with the barrier, and that was thanks to the pit lane exit at the top of Radillon. So he basically went off at the top of Radillon. Is it Rick at the wheel of the 303? It's Evo. It's Dad at the wheel of the 303, and maybe just becoming acclimatized there, but he lost it there, the back end of the car. Maybe that was cold tyres, Ben.
A classic thing he did there, turned in too early to Eau Rouge, because again, in the darkness, early seems to be the better thing. If you turn in too early at Eau Rouge, there's a bump, and he hit that bump, unsettled the rear of the car, and that set him into that slide. You're carrying so much momentum. It's very hard to get the front to straighten back up, and an amazing slide across the track. Lucky there was nobody around him, and eventually ended up facing the right direction.
Well, if I was Ivo Breukers, when I get out of that car and Dinah Binks puts a microphone under me, I would be telling her, yep, I was completely in control there. Just brought the back end round. I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure he was a passenger. I'm sure he'll need a change of underwear as well, because you got away with that one. Losing the car there at the top of the hill at Raidillon is never, it never usually goes your way, most certainly. And back down to the pits, we've got the number 133 Audi that has clearly had some kind of contact and has been recovered back to the pits on the back of a flatbed. Now the team goes to work on that car. It's got a destroyed left front tyre. The inside edge of that tyre looked destroyed, and that's probably because it's being pushed forward at 45 degrees, destroying the tyre in doing so because of that broken steering. Hopefully we'll get that back out. At the top of the timing screens, though, not that the timing of this session is significant, with a best of a 2 minutes 23.4, is the pole position car of the SBS Automotive Performance Mercedes. Lance David Arnold showing in the car. Has anyone else been out in that car, Ben? I've yet to see anyone. I've yet to look up at the screen and see the 16 being driven by anyone else.
Well, they've done 11 laps, or the fastest lap was on the 11th lap, so they've done even more than 11 laps.
Right, yeah.
So presumably he hasn't done all 11 laps.
Yeah, I would have thought not, but I didn't notice. Maybe, we don't know. Come to you racing with their Audi R8 LMS. It's in the A6 class. He's currently second on the timing screens, just gone out. Louis-Philippe Sonnen is the driver of that car, and that's a Belgian team. Welcome to the series to them, coming out of their home circuit.
Yeah, they run Fun Cup cars.
Right.
And last year...
only in Belgium, or
in the Belgium
maybe Benelux?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then last season entered into the TCR International Championship, which they nearly won with Stefano Camini. They don't run in TCR any longer, but they still have a good, or maybe they do run in the TCR Europe series, but they have a good relationship with Audi, and Frederic Verviche as well as one of their drivers, and second in the standings at the moment with Louis-Philippe. They've actually got a female driver as their third driver as well.
While you have a look at the entry list, Ben, for that female driver, let's go down to our female driver, our driver that will be taking us back to the hotel, in fact. Dinah Binks. Di, what you got?
Earlier on, obviously, you saw the 133 Bat Pro Motorsport car come into the garage. Just had a quick chat with one of the team members, and they are actually having to... the front left, there is some damage sustained there. They can see that now. They're changing the uprights, and they're doing further investigations a bit further back as well, because there's more damage sustained than they thought. Having chatted to Alberto Vescovi, he said he back of the circuit where it was really dark, and he just came across another GT car and had nowhere to go, and they collided.
Oh, bad luck, but then again, if it was that easy, we'd all be doing it. That's why it's hard out there, and that's why it's very dangerous out there, and that's why it's full of incident.
Well, it's interesting because it's red paintwork. That's why I speculated he'd hit the barrier, because he's got red marks on that left front wing. So he's hit a red car, and there aren't that many red cars about.
Well, you might have been right, though, Ben. That red might be off the barrier, and it might have been having hit the car. He's then speared into the barrier, so you may be right.
Otherwise, there's a car running around with a bit of paintwork on it.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? We can't.
In the dark,
we literally can't see anything from our cameras, and that's no fault of anyone. However, the session does continue. It's got just over 20 minutes left in this session, and I would imagine everyone's shuffled through their driver rotation and qualified everyone with regards to their 2 mandatory laps in the nighttime sessions. The only cars that maybe aren't are indeed the 133. That's in with damage. If they were halfway through their driver rotation, we'll wait and see how that transpires. Into the pits has come the number 11 Ferrari in third place. A lot of cars choosing to be in the pits, pardon me, Pretty much what we're seeing there, Ben, is what we assumed would happen, where we've gotten around the mandatory part of this session and we're going to save the car. We've got a relatively early start in the morning to this race. We're going to be grilling the cars up from about 9 a.m. for a 9:50 start. So not much time at all to
get the cars ready.
Yeah. We're going to be doing, you know, a little bit of servicing, a little bit of checking, spanner checking and the like, and then we'll be getting on with the rest of the preparation in the morning, start-up procedures, etc., and getting the cars ready to take the grid. But all of the work is going to be done tonight.
Yeah,
before they go home.
Yeah,
they're not going to leave anything to chance.
Interesting that we heard from Kvik VR Racing about the Mark M2 V8 and problems that they are experiencing. That's why we've not seen them out on track. We've everyone else is accounted for, but James Kay has yet to set a lap time. His last lap time was 28 minutes. He's driving for, again, Mark Cars Australia, Audi RS3. So question marks over the 138. Diana's got other news.
Just carrying on the conversation about the 133 Betpro Motorsport car, Jose Manuel Sepang has still got to go out. He's actually got behind the wheel, but they are still repairing the car, so they've got less than 20 minutes. They're saying they're confident he's going to go out, but I'm not 100% sure, but he has got to do his 2 laps. He hasn't been out yet at all, as you rightly said, just a few minutes earlier.
Thanks very much, Di. So the next question is James Kay, 138. Why has he only done 1 half-an-hour lap? And I don't think I think according to the entry list, they've only got 2 drivers in that car, so it's not as though they've got a lot of people to qualify. Potentially the entry list has since then had other people added to that car, but certainly you would suggest that they've not done all their qualifications as yet, if they are have yet to set a full lap time. Outside of that, it looks like everybody has set a decent amount of laps, whether that's with the right drivers or not. Tricky to see on our timing screens. Let's see if I can find a different page. We ride on board with the car collection Audi of Max Edelhoff. Good opportunity to see just how tricky it is to spot those apex. And remember, our onboard camera is adding a lot of light to that picture. It's trying to be like an iris of a camera or your eye itself. It's trying to allow as much light in as possible. That's why it's quite grainy. So what the drivers are experiencing is a lot darker than that.
Continuing in the dark then, and time's rolling in. People calling it a day early, understandably, out onto the Camel Straight in the Max Edelhoff driven number 34 Audi down the Camel Straight. They're flashing his lights to get by some of the slow traffic and going side by side into the first right-hander at Lacombe. Now the 34 car collection Audi is one of the cars in contention for our championship. It is 7 points off the team's championship, and that's very doable. The car that it needs to overcome is 5 points off the championship leader, the Pro Sport Performance Mercedes. It's 2 points ahead of the Scuderia Praha Ferrari. So and we've seen this car win before, they know how to win the race. These races, their overall performance, because of the difference in driver abilities, differs slightly from the Ferrari and slightly from the Pro Sport Mercedes. But if there's any kind of adversity hits the Ferrari or the Mercedes, then there to take up the cudgel will be the number 34 Audi.
Take up the what?
Cudgel.
What's a cudgel?
I have no idea, but I've heard it. I've heard someone say it. I'm going to have to look up the definition of cudgel.
What's a cudgel?
It's kind of pick up the baton, so to speak.
Well, we're coming into 9 o'clock at night. It's time for that kind of random chat, isn't it? When you do a 24-hour race, this is the moment where everything settles down, and I don't know what a cudgel is. Quite, as you say, quite a few cars in pit lane, having completed what they need to complete. fair few cars still out on circuit. I'd say about half and half. And in fact, good work from the 133 guys. Obviously, it was just a steering arm because the Audi is back out on track already. Bodywork not as pretty as it was before, but the car is driving in a straight line, and they're able to get that car quickly out onto track and to do the qualifying laps they need to do.
It's a button.
It's a button.
It's a short, thick stick used as a weapon, but in the terms that I'm using it in, it's a button. It's picking up the button.
Pick up the button.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So the button's been dropped by the Mercedes, the Ferrari towards the championship, and.
Such intelligence! Look at you, you've got a straight back now.
That's got nothing to do with
myself.
I'm not talking about anything that's magnificent in this room whatsoever. I'll explain that later. No, I'm. Yes. So moving on from our literary lesson this evening, we've got
15 minutes.
15 minutes of this nighttime practice. And I'm wondering, a question for Diana down there. Have we seen, Diana, I'm going to give you a chance to turn your mic on and then be able to talk to us. Have we seen any tinkering going on with the lighting on any of our cars up and down the pit lane? I'm going to open your mic now, Di, if you can hear us.
Yeah. Did you hear? I can hear you.
Yeah, no, there you are. There you are, Di. Have we had any
The answer to that
tinkering?
question is no. I was just trying to nip in to have a chat with James Kay to find out what's going on, because that car is obviously in the garage. No, I can't see anyone tinkering with lights at the moment.
Yeah, that's a first, isn't it? Because we saw a lot of it going on at Barcelona, and I would think somewhere as undulating as Spa, you would need to be more like. Di, just shout up if you do get James Kay. I wonder if they've called it a day because of just they've run through their programme.
Well, no, they haven't done a lap.
Oh, they haven't done a lap.
Well, they've done a 28-minute lap, so there's
something wrong then.
Oh, there's one of those. That's the Australian Mark Mustang. So it's a space frame with this fantastic body shell around it. This is the first time we've seen these in this iteration here at Creventic. They've obviously we had the Focus for many years run by VDS, but we've not seen that or the M2 that's here this weekend. That car is being fully run or fully driven by the Australians. Mark is an Australian company. I don't actually know what it stands for.
We shall find that out across the weekend.
MARC, so it's as though it's initials of somebody.
And I'm wondering if that Mustang chassis, which is a tube frame chassis with a silhouette bodywork like they've done with the Focus and the Mazda that we've seen here before, that is clearly a bigger car than what we've seen. So a completely different chassis than what we see with the Focus. Still got a V8 engine in.
Yeah.
But with that Mustang bodywork, they look fantastic. So while I look up what Mark stands for, we go down to Di, who's got James Kay for an explanation. James,
we've been talking about you for some time, obviously wondering what's going on, aware that you've not been out there on the track. What's been the delay for you?
Well, earlier on today, we had a problem with the car with a gearbox oil leak that we couldn't find. So that precluded earlier running, and then we've just been out now, and now we've got a really big metallic noise as well, so we're not sure what's happened.
Frustrating at this point of the day. Obviously, we're heading straight into that 12-hour race tomorrow, no track time. The guys look like they're still working on the car, so I'm guessing you're no further to a resolution here.
We don't know what the problem is, but what we'll do is we'll start at the root, which will be the gearbox mountings, and then work forward and see if we can actually identify the problem, replace it, and then go. But it looks like we won't be out again tonight. We'll just have to go straight into the race.
Will you get dispensation for that?
Hope so. Maybe.
I mean, clearly these, we all know what motorsport's like. These things happen, but it's not the best start to an endurance race, is it?
No, and we had a very bad Barcelona 24-hour race with a similar issue, where we'd got hit quite heavily in the front left corner by a Mercedes early in the race, which then manifested itself into more and more drivetrain dramas, and we think we've still got a problem.
Well, I'll leave you to find out. I hope you get it resolved, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bit of a mystery. Sounds like it might still be something related to their Barcelona accident, and That car, obviously the same car that would have participated in Barcelona. They had issues there, and they have not managed to solve it with a gearbox oil leak as well and a crunchy metallic noise. It's the worst type of noise, actually, is a crunchy metallic noise.
Not nice. Mark Cars Australia, that's the Mark II V8, unofficially styled on the Ford Mustang. They're down in the entry list as the Mark II Mustang V8 here for the Spa 12 Hours. I still haven't found out what Mark stands for. Might have to ask Ryan McLeod, who's the founder of the company.
Lights illuminating the Kemmel Straight then as we tick into just 10 minutes left of this session. A little bit of time for all the teams to turn around these cars that have, a lot of these cars have been doing testing from 10 a.m, rolling straight into practice, rolling straight into qualifying with a half-an-hour gap, and then into this night practice. They've actually run a huge amount of miles already, and we haven't even started the race. So these cars are going to need a decent turnaround before we go racing tomorrow. And racing, as we said, at 9:50 checkered flag, they'll need to be out on the track, on the grid at 9:30. So all of that various procedures will kick off around 9 o'clock. No time in the morning to get anything done. So mechanics tonight will be working very, very late to make sure these cars are good to go. All the checks, they won't be doing an F1 spec kind of rebuild, but they'll be checking everything over, checking all the fluids, making sure everything's operating correctly, probably changing the brakes, doing the fluids of the brakes, and making sure the car's good to go for a 12-hour race.
So what time would you get the lads in the morning if it was yours?
You try and work them as late tonight and then as late in the morning as possible.
Yeah.
You're trying to get them in.
I still think you'd be in between 6:30 and 7.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Doesn't matter how late you finish tonight. You sit, because you know what, Ben, in my experience, startup procedures can almost always go wrong.
Yeah, something always happens.
Something always happens. Alternator belt snaps or something for no reason, brand new. So you can never be. It's like you could never get to an airport too early.
Oh God, I'm not one of those. Absolutely not one of those. My last experience at Brussels airport, I fell asleep, and I never made my flight.
No way.
Yeah, that's because I was commentating during the night at this particular venue.
Oh, really?
And did the full 12 hours of the night, had a little kip, then went to the airport. And it was my first point of relaxation was waiting at the gate. And I woke up, and everybody around me had boarded the plane. And I looked out the window, and my bag was being taken off the plane.
No way. So no one had woke you?
No. Apparently it was company policy not to wake people up, because at one point somebody got punched in the face.
Wow.
Yeah. So Brussels Airlines got a very hefty worded complaint from me after €250 of a new flight that because it was my responsibility, I missed. That was not a nice way to finish off the 24 hours.
It is that, I suppose.
No problems with that happening this time, though, because we are running through the day tomorrow, 9:50 in the morning till 9:50 at night, and then the Night of Champions here at Spa, traditional end-of-season party. Although it's not quite the end of season, because obviously you've got Kota as well. But
end of the European Championship.
End of the European Championship.
Yeah, we can crown our European Championships. We are still to crown our champions of the continent, our championship of the continent, but certainly the European part of the 2018. God, 2018's over. Here we are at the final round for the 24 Series European season.
Mid-October already. Not a lot left.
No, not a lot left. And not a lot of time left in this session. We're now under 7 minutes remaining. Lance David Arnold's SPS Mercedes looks like it's going to finish night practice in the same way it finished qualifying, i.e. at the top of the timing screens. 2 minutes 23 is the best time in this session, and considerably slower, a couple of 2.5 seconds, 4 seconds slower than they achieved with the 2:19. I think it was the pole time. And come to you racing, a more than welcome entry at this 12 Hours of Spa local team to Belgium. Angelique Detavani is the female driver of that number 86 car.
Detevernay. I'm sure she says it a lot better than I do.
You've got to pretend you've got a French accent.
Angelique Detevernay, I'm sure is how she says it. Daniel de Jong in the MP Motorsport Mercedes is now into the pits in the number 19 MP Motorsports Merc. And Adam Christodoulou shows out on the track in the Pro Sport Performance Mercedes. Fastest time 2 minutes 24.4.
Yeah, he's just lighting up the timing screens as well, Adam Christodoulou. So
here we go.
He's going to just explain and demonstrate to all these different drivers what a pro can do in the night in comparison to what everybody else can do.
He's gone green in sector 1, purple in sector 2. So he's coming towards the final part of the lap. He's just coming through Blanchimont now, heading towards the chicane. And he will be braking for the right, the very tight, almost hairpin right-hander into almost hairpin left-hander. Very, very tight indeed. This is where you can completely blow the lap. There it is.
Boom.
There's the fastest time of the night, 2:23.3. He's gone just over a tenth quicker than Lance David Arnold.
Very important, of course, after qualifying.
Yes.
They can claim the night win.
So Adam Christodoulou gets a little bit of consolation back tonight.
Kind of for a really, really important, it's important for a driver's confidence. Not that he lost confidence for not being on pole position, but he's a competitive man and he'll be a little bit frustrated not to have got pole position.
It's happened twice in a row, Ben,
exactly.
Literally on the final lap. I'm going to give them another mention. The Ram crossed the line to start the final lap of the Barcelona qualifying. There was 3 seconds on the clock. Oof. 3 seconds. Tom went across the line, he came round and he took the pole position of Adam Christodoulou, who was doing what he was doing today, standing there, having got out of the car, looking at the timing screen, and he took that pole position by 0.015 of a second. And today, Lance David Arnold in the SPS car did exactly the same to him, and a little bit more. 0.013. And Adam Christodoulou said to Bruce, what do I have to do to get a pole position in this series? Just go quicker by a couple of tenths.
Yeah,
he shouldn't
have given up. He could have done another, probably could have done another one. I think the Hankook tyres are good enough to have banged in another lap, that's for sure. But it does set up an intriguing early part of the race. If they do go with all pros in those first 3 cars, it's going to be ding-dong. It's going to be absolutely brilliant to see Adam against Lance David against Malucelli if they're all running that kind of a pace. Although, they're running that kind of a pace on a 1 lap. Over a course of a full stint, they might not be able to.
I'm really worried about the performance of the 911 Porsche. It had that big off this morning in one of our test sessions. It hasn't featured massively at all in any of our qualifying or nighttime session. It was well off the pace in qualifying, about 7 seconds off the pole position. Now it's not necessarily ever a contender for pole, but certainly once we get into the race, that car then sort of gravitates towards the head of the field, and then we've had it battling it out with the Ferrari of the Bohemia Energy Racing Scuderia Praha car time and time again. However, I'm worried it's not going to be able to. So Diana Binks, with a couple of minutes remaining before this nighttime session is over, maybe we could end on a bit of an update and a bit of an insight as to just what is going on with the Herbert car. Are they happy with it? Are they unhappy with it? Was the car more damaged than perhaps they estimated? I mean, a car bolts back together, you set it up, you've got the right to set up on the car, and the car should really be competitive again where it was after the accident. That's what race cars are meant to do. They crash, we damage them, we repair them, we take them back out. That's the process. So I'm a little bit surprised and a little bit concerned that the level of performance, in fact, it's the slowest A6 car in this nighttime session.
As it was in qualifying as well.
As it was in qualifying. In fact, it's behind 2 SPX cars. The Mark II Mustang of VDS, Jose Clos.
Yes, 7 seconds in qualifying it was off Christodoulou. That's not quite right. They're normally a lot better than that. And car back together, but have they put the car back together with some underlying issues still in there?
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
It's quite easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if something's a little bit bent.
Yes.
It still fits, but Sven Muller's got popped up to third in the SPX Porsche 911 of next year. So great time from the pro Porsche driver. Relatively young still, Sven Muller. One of the younger of the works drivers, and he's just 0.3 of a second off Christodoulou's pace, of which he's now consolidated. He's decided not to push anymore. He's done enough to get himself up to the top of the timing screens. Lance David Arnold and the SPS car has been in the pits for some 20 minutes now, so they're not going to answer to it. Sven Muller might. Sven Muller's pushing for another lap, so potentially we'll get that 2019 car on the top of the timing screens, which would be nice.
That'd be interesting. I'm sure it's capable of a faster into the 22s. He's gone green in sector 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And the number 912 is currently going through Pouhon.
Checker flag is flying now. End of the session, end of the night session. Most cars are in the pits, but just a little bit of an intriguing side story with this SPX Porsche 911 GT3 2019 as to whether it can finish the session on the fastest time. Oh, 118 is being towed. Oh. That's in the paddock, isn't it?
It might be down to the fueling.
Yeah.
912 is just coming through Stavelot.
Here he comes. Fastest of anyone through sector 2.
He is purple, sector 2.
Yeah, yeah.
There he is, just coming through Stavelot. He's now heading towards the dauntingly fast left-hander at Blanchimont, and that spurt up towards the chicane. This is where it can all go wrong at the chicane. You miss your braking point by a metre. You go too deep into the corner. You scrub off all of that speed. He's got traffic.
Through the chicane then, let's just follow him across the line to see if he does go fastest of this session. He does. Sven Muller does a 2:23.217. Christodoulou misses out again by a 1/10 of a second.
Adam, I'm sorry to tell you,
Adam.
On the very last lap of the session, the fastest time was taken from you. Again.
Oh.
Let's head down. Di, what have you got for us?
You asked me to find out about the Herbert Motorsport car on the 911. Just chatted to Daniel Alleman, and they're not happy. They haven't really resolved anything. They feel the car is still a bit too heavy. It's not where they want it. They're going to work on it overnight and have a look and see what else they can find. But obviously there are still some gremlins from the earlier off that they had. But as you can see, the guys here are doing the last-minute final tweaks. But they're not really happy at the moment, which is not the night's sleep they wanted, I would imagine.
Yeah, and interesting to see they've got a second car just sitting behind. I wonder whether there's been a little bit of parts being pulled from one to the next and trying to get that car running better. But it's going to be a very short night, I think, for Herbert Motorsport. Trying to solve exactly what the problem is on that car. 12th position of the session, 6.2 back from Sven Muller, and Sven is in the 2019 spec version of the car that they have.
Let's have a bit of a look back at this session. Look towards tomorrow's race now. We've done our qualifying in beautiful bright sunshine. It has been a beautiful day here at Spa-Francorchamps with 25-degree heat forecast for tomorrow's race. We've had highs of 24 here. It's going to be even warmer tomorrow. That bodes well for a very good race indeed. We had a very tight qualifying session going right down to the checkered flag, as seems to be going on all up and down the pit lane in tonight's night practice. Obviously, driving in the dark will bring incident. It's tricky. It's a different environment altogether, and we saw not as much incident as potentially we were expecting, but we saw some cars having to be recovered from out on the circuit. A few problems then going into the overnight. The teams will not get to bed as early as perhaps we will, and work will go on into the small hours to get these cars readied. With some servicing going on, getting the cars race ready, I'm quite sure the cars will be set up already for race conditions, and we look forward then to a very competitive Spa 12 hours. Race starting at 9:50 Belgian time, and let's hope we have a safe and eventful race, and competitive as ever is what we expect.
Thank you very much for joining us here, 24 Series from Creventic.